Welcome to Candlewick Library. I'm Cheryl. Today I'm sharing my May TBR, especially for Hikeathon. All of my reading in April was mood reading. With the exception of the year-long challenges that I'm doing in my reading journal, I didn't do any other challenges or readathons or anything in April. And I actually thought I wasn't going to in May as well. And then the Brightside Girl posted her Hikeathon readathon announcement. And this one just sounded like so much fun to me. It was exactly what I was, I think, looking for to transition from spring into summer. And I felt like everything she made, the graphics and the prompts, everything was so creative. Every reading prompt is a badge that you're earning. And so I decided to make my reading journal pages look kind of like one of those sashes that Girl Scouts wear, and to print out the badges on sticker paper so that I could actually attach them to the sash as I went along. So I needed somewhere to put them, so I made this little pocket for the badges. And so I can just pull them out whenever I read a book. I'll pull them out and then I can just stick it right on to there, so that hopefully by the end of the month I will have them all filled up. There's also activity badges, so things that you can do that are outdoorsy type activities that you can also earn badges for. So I have those in that pocket as well. So I just made the two, and then there's also going to be Instagram challenges and things like that. She was so creative with all of this and I just love it. You're going to see that my TBR is very ambitious for May because I chose a different book for each of the prompts. If it gets to the end of the time of the readathon and I don't have any more time, then I will double up a few of them because a few of them are capable of that. But I do like to go into readathons with a different one for every prompt just to see if I can do it. So this isn't a month-long readathon. It's actually May 12th to 26th. So it's a 2-week readathon. So I also am going to be showing a few books that I want to read before and after the readathon. So I have quite a pile of books here that I'm hoping to get to in May. Will I get to all of them? That will be determined. I think part of it is that in May, I figured that I was only going to be getting to 2 or 3 books at tops because I was going to be gone from the 3rd all the way to the 27th on a road trip with my parents and my daughters. We were going to be going to the East Coast. We were going to be going to the Ark in Kentucky. We were going to be visiting friends in Tennessee. We were going to be going to Gettysburg and Hershey in Pennsylvania and Williamsburg and some places in Georgia. And we were going to be going to Disney World for a few days. And Doug was going to be flying out for those few days at Disney World. It was just this epic road trip we have been planning for a few months now. But then, as many of you know, we had some health issues come up with my dad, and he has now been in the hospital for a few weeks. He is looking so much better right now. We're seeing so much improvement, but he had a few strokes. He had some other complications in the hospital. He ended up having a surgical procedure to unblock an artery, and he's been in rehab now for about a week. Obviously, I had to cancel that whole trip. We're hoping that we will be able to eventually revisit that. But because May had kind of been blocked off for this trip, I am trying to infuse some really fun things into May to kind of make up for that excitement that my daughters and I had that we're not having anymore, if that makes sense. So this is something that I think really answered that, where it's giving me something to just really look forward to and to put a lot of work into. And so I think that that's kind of why. And so again, a very ambitious TBR, but I might actually get to it. And I think it's going to be really funny if this ends up being the month where I read the most when I thought it was going to be the month when I read the least. So let's get to the reading prompt badges. First is a post-apocalyptic read. And for this, I have been listening to the Silo books. I don't know if that's what they're called, but in the video that I made with Doug, we talked about the Silo books. There's a TV show called Silo, and there were 3 books that this TV show is taking from. I did not read the first book. Since I watched the TV show with Doug, he told me what was different between it and the book. So I didn't read that one. I just went straight into book 2 to see what happens next. So in May, I was planning on doing the 3rd book. I am going to be listening to it throughout the month. Then a seasonal read. I may have to change this because I can't remember if she said it had to be a spring or summer seasonal read. If it is, I have plenty of books I can choose from, and this would just become a book used for another prompt or one that I will just read extra in the month. But I was just thinking a book that takes place in one season, and so I chose Emma M. Lyon, Volume 5. This is the next one to read in both of the groups that I'm kind of joining in on casually that are reading through the Emma M. Lyon series. They're doing 1 book a month, and this would be the one, obviously, for May, with being 5. I can't wait to get back into this. I think I've told you guys that I've been kind of holding myself back because I really just want to rush through the series. But the fact that I know that once I get through 8, I will have to wait for the next one is helping me to keep doing it only one a month. But I am very excited to get to the next volume of this. I love this series so much so far. The next one is A Mountain on the Cover. So I'm really hoping to read A Hope Unburied by Kimberly Woodhouse. This is the 3rd book in the series that's about paleontology. I've talked about how the first book I liked, I didn't love. The second book I really enjoyed. So I'm hoping that this one will be like the second one, that it will feel more like there's more paleontology in it. It looks like at least part of this is also taking place in Utah, like the second book. And as most of you know, I really love anything to do with archaeology, paleontology, dinosaurs, all of it. I think this cover is so beautiful, and there's a mountain on it. The next prompt is elemental magic. So any kind of magic that has to do with the 4 elements. It took me a minute to figure out what I wanted to read for this, but one of the books I really was hoping to get to in the next couple of months is Drake Hall. And this is the book 2 in the series. And since there are dragons in it, there is fire. And there is talk of fire in it. There was in the first book, at least. So I'm assuming there will be in this one as well. And then a book that includes a road trip. For this, I'm going to try to get to Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer. After I read Under the Banner of Heaven last year, I really wanted to read more books by him. And I have 2 more to read, but I figured this one, I believe it has at least some of it as part of a road trip. So it's a pretty small one, so that should be pretty easy to read in a readathon time period. For a survival read, I'm going to try to get to One Wrong Step by Jennifer Nielsen. This one I just recently got for my birthday, and this is a group of people that are trying to climb Everest. And that is something I always find interesting as well. I might even try to read Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer. That's the other one I have. I think that's what it's called. That also is Everest, but we'll see. If I have enough time, I might end up doing that just so I have books that are similar to each other. For characters on a journey, I want to read The Mystery of the Blue Train by Agatha Christie. As you know, I'm reading a bunch of Agatha Christie books this year, and this is the next one on the list. The synopsis sounds similar to Murder on the Orient Express, where somebody dies on a train. I don't know much more about it than that, but I always like Agatha Christie, and these are usually very quick reads. The next badge is Set in Nature, and I just recently got this book, Island of Stars, by Carrie Brownell. A couple of kids exploring an island. I don't know much more about it than that. This book is really heavy. I don't know why it's so much heavier than other books this size, but it's really heavy. She is someone that I have bought merchandise from online, and I've really enjoyed her art and the different things she's done. And this is a book that she put out a while ago, and I was finally able to get a copy of it that wasn't an ebook. The next one is Set at a Camp. I have a few books like that, but I wasn't really looking to reread them right now. And I don't think I have any other ones on my TBR that are set at a camp. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this one because I do like books set at camp, but I wasn't sure that I would want to buy one just for this. This may change if I hear about one that is really good that I decide to read, or I decide to reread something. But as for now, I'm just going to throw in a little picture book, The Berenstain Bears Go to Camp. And that will just be fun just to read that in a couple of minutes one of the days. And then the next one is a book with leaves on the cover. And for that, I'm going to use Anne's House of Dreams by L.M. Montgomery, because obviously there are a lot of trees, so there's a lot of leaves. And this is the one for May in Chantel's read along of Lucy Montgomery books this year. And I am so excited for this one because I love the whole Anne series, but I have 3 favorites, and this is one of them. And then a book with a shoe on the cover. A few of the ones I've already shown have had shoes on the cover, including the One Wrong Step where they are hiking. So if anything changes, that might end up happening. But for now, I have The Wrong Way Home by Kate O'Shaughnessy, and you can see the little girl's shoes on this one, so I think that counts. And this book is basically a mom who escapes with her daughter out of the cult that they're a part of, and I really enjoy reading books about cults. And then the last one is a book with woods in the title, and I was trying to figure out if that could be something with the actual word wood, or if it could be a kind of wood. And I thought about rereading The Sherwood Ring because I really enjoy that book, and it has been a while since I read it. But then I saw this one on my TBR shelf. This is The Bird in the Tree by Elizabeth Gooch. I've talked about how she's one of my favorite authors, but I haven't read the Elliott Family trilogy by her yet, and this is book 1 in that series. I figured the word tree could count as a wood in the title. And then the badges for activities are to visit a little free library, go to a park, read outside, have a picnic, do any outside activity and go on a hike. It's going to be kind of fun to try to figure out in that 2-week period of time how to work those things in. And then as far as my other reading outside of those for the month of May, and some of these books might end up being replacing some of those if I don't get to those, because these are other books that I really am hoping to read in May. We are still reading The Secret Garden and The Secret Garden devotional. So we will not be finishing The Secret Garden and the devotional until the end of this week. So it'll be May already. Even though it will mostly have been read in March and April, that one will continue for a few days in May. And then a couple other books that we'll be going over from April to May. I have been reading this book by Tom Felton, Beyond the Wand, The Magic and Mayhem of Growing Up a Wizard. This is a memoir that he wrote a couple of years ago. I am really enjoying this, and I'm about halfway through. And then another book I started in April, and I'm not as far into it because it's a very big book, but I'm enjoying this so much, is Roughing It by Mark Twain. I am in the Mark Twain kind of section of my American literature course that I'm doing. In March, I read Prince and the Pauper. In April, I read Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court, and then started this one. I'll be finishing this, and after that, I think I'm going to be done with Mark Twain, since I've already read Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. But it's been really fun, and so far, this is my favorite Mark Twain. Where I'm at, he's traveling to the west, to California, and right now, where I'm at, he just got to Utah. It's been such an interesting and good book so far. And then I recently got a copy of The Journey to Jesus by Brandy Bronson. She is somebody I started following on Instagram, and she's talked a lot about this book that she wrote. This is her story of leaving the Mormon church for Christianity. So obviously I'm really looking forward to this as well. I had 3 books recommended to me over the past couple of months, and they all have a matching theme. That made me want to read them at the same time. And they're all about Vietnam in some way. And my dad fought in Vietnam. It's been a very big part of our life. He was in special forces. Obviously, I know a lot about it because of growing up in an environment where my dad was a Vietnam War veteran. But I also feel like that there's still so much for me to learn and to experience of other people's stories with it. My mom and I have been really trying to get him to write his stories down because they're so interesting. And I've been thinking a lot about it more lately because of what happened to him. So we're hoping to help him get those stories down in the next little while. But that made me think of this during the time when he's been in the hospital. I've been thinking a lot about it, and I had picked up all these books during that time. So I'm hoping to read these at the very beginning of May. The first one is Everything Else in the Universe by Tracy Holzer. This one is a middle grade. Lucy and her father have always been a team, but that was before the Vietnam War took her father and returned him moody, distant, and missing his left arm. So this sounds like it's dealing a lot with the PTSD, and I feel like that's going to be something I'm really going to relate to because my dad does have PTSD, and so that is a part of our story. The next one is All We Thought We Knew by Michelle Shockley. And this has a dual timeline, one in 1942 and one in 1969. She says she was so sure she knew her family's story. Now she wonders if she was wrong about it all. In the 1969, in the Vietnam era part of the story, it says, when Maddie Taylor's twin brother was killed in Vietnam, she lost her best friend and the only person who really understood her. News that her mother is dying draws Maddie back home despite blaming her father for Mark's death. Mama's last wish is for Maddie to read some old letters stored in a trunk from people Maddie doesn't even know. Mama insists they hold the answers Maddie is looking for. And then the other storyline, I'm guessing, is the letters, and it has to do with World War II. So this sounds like something that would be right up my alley. And I believe that one and this third one, I believe they're both Christian fiction, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And this one is All Manner of Things by Susie Finkbeiner. And this one says, after Annie Jacobson's brother Mike enlists as a medic in the Army in 1967, he mails her the address of their long-estranged father. If anything should happen to him in Vietnam, Mike says, Annie must let their father know. In Mike's absence, their father returns to face tragedy at home, adding an extra measure of complication to an already tense time. Letter by letter, the Jacobsons must find a way to pull together as a family regardless of past hurts. I feel like all 3 of these books sound like they're going to be very heavy. And I hope that won't be too much to read at one time. But I am going to try to read all of those in the couple of weeks leading up to the readathon time. So that is my very ambitious May TBR. I may or may not get through. We'll see. But I think that there's some really good books here. So I feel like it's going to be a really good reading month no matter how many of them I get through. I'd love to hear what you're reading in May. And this is a bonus video this week. So there will be another video on Thursday.